Hi, I'm Katie Geyer, Communications Coordinator for the City of Midland. Welcome to the Max Loves Midland show.
Hey, welcome back to the Max Loves Midland show. I'm your weekly tour guide, Kevin LeDuc, and today's a really exciting episode because we are going to do 1.5 hours of conversation about parking issues inside the city of Midland. And with me today is our city's communications coordinator, Katie Geyer.
Are you sure an hour and a half is going to be long enough? I'm not really sure about that.
You know, I think you get enough of that because you're running social media, and I know you are fielding, and these are not empty complaints. You know, people want to be heard. Sure. I know you're fielding these type of conversations every single day and these type of outreach pieces every single day. So today I really want to talk about you instead of talking about everything that everyone else has to say.
Sure, absolutely. I love it. Let's go.
So I'm a little bit curious. What exactly do you do at the City of Midland?
Oh, I think the shorter list at this point would probably be what I don't do. But in a nutshell, I oversee day-to-day communications for the city. So that means a lot of things. That means social media, which is what people pretty much know me for, fortunately or unfortunately. I also do a lot of media interviews. I write all of our press releases, do a lot of script writing for our videos. I'm sure people have probably seen some of the MCTV videos that I've done. I do Citizens Academy, which is a super cool 10-week program that we run for residents to learn more about city government. I oversee our website. And essentially, any type of direct public interaction between you and the city, I have my hands on, which is such a cool opportunity.
Well, it's really awesome. And I know you're pretty well known for your work on social media with the City of Midland. And we've had that discussion before, but a lot of times people are approaching you and saying, are you the one that runs that social media? How often does this happen to you?
I would love to say it doesn't happen like once a week, but it absolutely happens probably at least once a week. And usually in like the least opportune moments, like I had some service work done at my house and the person like recognized me. It was very odd. So I love it, but at the same time, I feel, proud of it and also a little creeped out. Let's be honest.
Well, when it comes to that social media work, that's an extension of you. And I think quite often everyone is always saying the social media for the City of Midland, wow, it's so funny, it's so humorous.
Yeah.
And it definitely is. And you do bring a lot of humor to the table, and that's a great tool when communicating. But what I find so interesting about it is it's so transparent. When people are walking away with that idea of what that is, they actually internalize that message. And it has to be so hard and as a government entity to be able to put a message out there and people to be able to internalize that, read it, and comprehend it. And you find really magical ways to do that. So what inspires you to be so transparent within your communication?
Sure. So like you said, it really is kind of an extension of my personality to an extent, which I think is really important for brands or any type of organization on social media. You have to bring that human element into it, which is what makes it so transparent, right? I live in this community. My kiddo goes to school in this community. I work here. I care about this place. Why shouldn't our social media and our communications sound like somebody who does all of those things? And that's really why I bring that to the table. I know growing up in my hometown in Indiana, there wasn't a lot of transparency when I was growing up. And I remember being, in elementary school, even up to, when I moved back as an adult, not feeling like people were really being listened to or not really feeling like I really understood what was going on until I got involved in the public sector myself. So my goal is really to make everyone feel like they are an active part of what we're doing at the city. And while they're learning about the things that we're doing and we're sharing that information, they also feel like they can have a conversation with us.
And with that, you're inviting a lot of conversation with community members, so you're getting a lot more feedback, and I'm assuming interaction has to be up all the time with these accounts, and I'm sure you can see the trend lines and see the way that fits, and that's always great. Yeah. But how many messages are you getting, and how often is your phone going off, and what really sets it off? Like, when are people reaching out a little bit more, and what are they looking for?
Sure. So I will say that I was never, ever busier than during the first month or two of COVID. We would get anywhere from 20 to 40 direct messages a day in addition to comments because people were at home. They were wondering what's happening next. They're probably nervous, afraid, even angry in some cases. And they just wanted to be able to reach out and make that connection or get their question answered. And I think that's what's so important about the work that we do digitally is giving people that opportunity to connect with their government, but talk to an actual human being and kind of get those questions answered. Now, I will say, when we had the dam failures in 2020, I did not sleep for the first 3 days. I don't know how I managed to survive that. I'm not sure what like the human body needs in terms of sleep, but I was not there by any means. And I just remember reading those messages from people and seeing the photos and crying right along with those people that were obviously so afraid and upset and just wanting someone to listen to them. And a lot of it was just messages about people wanting to connect. It wasn't, I need something. It was, I just lost my house. I just lost everything I've ever worked for. And what do I do now? And just to have that human compassion for somebody in that moment. Was I doing my job? I mean, I think I am. But it was more than just being a communications person for the city. It was being a part of this community and giving them that opportunity to have someone to talk to. And I think that's really important.
That's really beautiful. It really separates the idea between that paycheck coming with a specific logo on it and really just gets down to human conversation and that interaction that occurs, because those are the real moments that are part of a much larger wheel within a community. And we talk a lot about collective action here on Max Loves Midland, but that's important, is understanding the role within a community and where you fit in it. So we're pretty lucky to have you be able to communicate with individuals, especially in times of need like that. If anyone's ever going to reach out to the city and they're going to message you on social media, I'm sure there's a lot of places they can get questions answered before that as well. Yes. Where are some other spots? Obviously, probably your website or...
Sure. So yeah, they can head to cityofmidlandmi.gov. Obviously, any City of Midland social media channel. We check direct messages. We check comments. We check tag posts. That is not an invitation, by the way, to go tag us in every Ask Midland post, because I almost said Max Loves Midland. Tag us in every Max Loves Midland post, by the way. Do that. We love that. But Ask Midland, we just don't engage there. But we will answer questions from there. So we could do it on the website. You could call us. Come into City Hall. My goodness. People, I think they can only come to City Hall when there's a council meeting and they're upset about something, or like to pay their taxes. But come in anytime. We have such a fantastic staff that is willing to help, willing to talk, willing to go that extra mile for our residents. And I think that's what makes us so unique as a local government, and why I am so proud to work for the City of Midland, because we do that. And I'm not just saying that.
So long before this dream of social media was alive, let's take it way, way, way back, and long before you worked at the City of Midland and long before we had Facebook accounts. Sure. What was childhood like for you, and what did you ever envision yourself in a communication style role when you were growing up?
If you would have told me when I was a kid, or even honestly 20 years ago, that I was going to be doing communications for local government, I would have laughed, because that was not my trajectory at all. So I am Canadian. I was born in the Windsor area, but we moved to Indiana when I was 7. So I've been in the States most of my life.
Well, you're from South Detroit, so...
technically, Windsor is South Detroit. We're on to you, Journey. So, my mother married an American, and my brother, mom, and I moved to Indiana. Now, my dad and all of my family biologically is still in Canada. My parents actually just moved back, and so I really grew up without that, what you would call a core family network around you, grandparents, things like that. I had step family. But in terms of growing up, it was unique for me, because family became what I made over the years versus who was related to me. So that's kind of a theme I've seen throughout my whole life is, the people that you choose to have in your life, or the people that are around you, they become your support network, and they become so important to you. And so I grew up in Indiana, went to a school at Butler, go Dogs, in Indianapolis, and stayed in Indy for about 10 years. And then after college, I decided, actually in college, I went to be a veterinarian. I wanted to be a veterinarian my whole life, from the time I was a little kid, and loved animals, worked at vet hospitals, took every science class I could in school. And then I got to like my sophomore year of college and was taking a bunch of like really awful science classes. And I said, you know what? I hate this. I don't like this. I can't imagine doing this for like another 6-8 years to get through it to what I want to be doing. And I've always been a really creative person. I've always been a gifted writer, thankfully. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go into marketing. And so I did that, graduated with a marketing degree from Butler. and immediately got into like the private sector of corporate marketing, because when I graduated, that's what I thought marketers did, right? I didn't think about a role like mine.
Well, they didn't really exist in this format. And I've told the story on the show before. My first day of college in 2009, they asked me, what do you want to do? And I actually said I wanted to be a social media manager because that trajectory was beginning to pop around 2007, 2008. I was basically laughed at in that class. And I realized like, oh, that's a really strange thing to say out loud right now. And then 2 years later, they have like full course loads on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, social media was not a thing that was mentioned at all during my coursework at Butler. So I was in corporate marketing roles until 2014. And there was a job that opened up, actually very similar to the role I have now at the city, with our local economic development alliance back in my hometown. And growing up in Kokomo, Indiana, which is where I'm from, and it's, I would tell you, not like the Beach Boys song, unfortunately, not that cool. But it's just a little blue collar town, about an hour north of Indy. And growing up, I think we talked about this a little bit, is there just wasn't a lot of transparency. There wasn't a lot going on, wasn't a lot to do. And so I took that job as an opportunity to say, I want to be a part of the change that I want to see. It was a new role. There were no expectations. And I really took it on and gave it a best shot that I had. And it was a fantastic opportunity. Learned so much about local government, working with the city there, and so much about economic development. So then when I moved up here in 2016, I took a job in corporate marketing again when I first arrived in Michigan. And I quit after 90 days. Because I said, this is just not what I want to do. Public service is really where I'm at. That's what really fuels that fire within me to feel like I'm a part of a community and I'm, being a positive part of the world. And the job at the city came up and I took it. And it's been over 8 years now.
I find it really interesting that you moved here from Canada. You're working in local government in the United States.
Yeah.
So I have to question, like, what are some of your favorite myths about Canadians?
My favorite myths. Okay, so I'm not proud of this, but my family used to tell people the most ridiculous things about being Canadian. And I don't remember really learning a lot about Canada when I was in school in the States. So in Indiana, you don't meet a lot of Canadians. And people would just believe everything we said. Like we told people we ate beaver for Thanksgiving. I'm pretty sure my mom had people at her hospital where she worked thinking that for like a decade. When I worked at the Economic Development Alliance, I actually told a story to someone about going on an annual beaver quest, which is where you go out into, this is so silly. You go out into.
No, it's not. We did the same thing. I'm from Beaverton.
Yeah,
very similar.
Perfect.
Very similar thing.
See, beaver quests are a Michigan thing too. No, I made up this elaborate story, which is where my creativity gets me in trouble, about going out on Thanksgiving morning, because Canada's Thanksgiving is different than the United States. And hunting beavers because you had to bring them back to cook them and prepare them for your family or no one ate. And I had a coworker in particular that like told that story several times over and eventually was told, not by me, by someone else, that it wasn't true. And I felt really bad about that. But I mean, it's just fun to kind of see the different cultures that people don't know a whole lot about.
So you arrive here in Michigan, and did you move directly to Midland?
No, I actually lived in the Thumb when I first got here. My younger daughter's dad was from the Thumb area. So when I moved up here, that's where we lived. And I actually commuted from the Thumb to here for 4 years. And then at the end of that relationship, I had a couple of choices, right? I had worked for the city for over 4 years by that point. And I was really at a crossroads in my life. And it was, do I go back to Indiana where I have some friends, I have a network, but it would be starting over. Do I stay in the Thumb area and keep commuting here or get a job? Not a lot of opportunities where we were at. Do I go like back to Canada where my parents now live again? But I really have not lived since I was 6 years old, not really familiar. Or do I go to this community that in the last 4 years has never felt more like home than anywhere I've ever lived in my life? And I have this great network of colleagues, friends. I have so much knowledge about the community. I love my job. And so it was honestly not a very difficult decision. So I bought a house a week before the COVID pandemic started really hitting. And then 2 months later, we had a major infrastructure failure and I had to work, for weeks at a time, 7 days a week. So yeah, my timing is impeccable, but I'm super happy to be here. And I've been here for 4 years.
I want to talk a little bit about your first your first impression of Midland.
Yeah.
So you're commuting here. It's 2016, correct?
Yep.
What stuck out to you, and what felt like what kind of things did you feel when you were here?
Sure. So when I came for my interview, I will say I had never been to Midland, not once, until I came for my interview. I had actually heard of Midland before, weirdly enough, because when I was in college, I had an internship with another Butler student that was from Midland. And that's the only time I had ever heard of this city before. So when I saw the job posting come up, I was like, well, I know it's a real place because someone talked about being from there. And so I came, and I just thought it was so cool to drive in and see Dow Diamond right there as you're coming in. And the downtown still really wasn't what it is today, but it was just a bunch of cute, quaint little shops. And I was kind of nervous because I was like, this looks like a small community. It's smaller than where I grew up, but it's a lot bigger than where I was living in the Thumb. And the first impression was just, I wonder if I could see myself here. I was just trying to kind of scope that out. And as I got to meet more people at the city, went through the interview process, and then started getting like an actual tour of the city once I started working here, I was like, my gosh, this place has so many opportunities for people, so many amenities, so many great services. And the people here were just so welcoming and kind. And it didn't take long for me to feel at home.
And like, what were some of your favorite things at that point in time? Like structures, like things that maybe drew you here that stuck out a little bit more?
Yeah. So obviously the Tridge is so cool. And I think we take that for granted here. We're tired of seeing Tridge imagery, right? Because we get so used to it. But
no, we're not.
Never. Yeah. Well done. So I think that it is such a great hidden gem. And I come across it on Instagram being shared by like regional pages, state pages. It gets shared a lot on social media for like things to do, cool things to see in Michigan. And people just marvel at it. And they're like, where is this? I want to see this so much. And it just fills me with so much pride to see people really interested in coming to see some of the things that we have going on here. It doesn't seem like much, but it's really gone a long way in getting our community out there. And then once people come, they have the opportunity to see all the other amazing opportunities we have here. So I really love Dow Gardens. That was one of the coolest things that I did once I started working here, is just go and walk around Dow Gardens and see all of the care that goes into that. And we have so many amenities, Center for the Arts. We have the Canopy Walk now. Our downtown is thriving. Just things that a city of this size doesn't typically have. And it still gives you that feeling of being in a smaller community, a safe community, but with a lot of amenities that communities 3 times our size don't have. And so that was really one of the deciding factors as well in me moving here full time.
Well, it's really interesting. You name all these great amenities, and I think it's really, really easy for you and I in our career field that are always looking for community-based solutions or community development to always look at where we have things that are lacking, like where are our challenges and how to focus on those challenges. And it is always important to look at our challenges and make sure we're moving toward the future.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy that we're taking the time to explore some of our advantages here, because when we look around our community, and Brandon Lewis said it on the show, he said, you know, if you look at what we have, Midland's second to none.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. And obviously we're not number one in every category across the board and every metric. And we know there are a ton of issues that need to be worked on here for sure. But if we take and leverage what we do have, I think we make a pretty compelling case for being a place for people that would want to move,
Sure.
work, play, live, or visit.
Yeah.
You mentioned the Tridge. It's always popping up on different TikToks.
Yep, it is.
Tagged in random things online.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's just all sorts of great stuff like that. So surely your most viral post ever from the city had to involve the Tridge then, right?
Oh, man. No, actually, I think one of our most viral posts that we've ever had involved the snowplow naming contest that we did a couple years ago, which, spoiler alert, we're doing again in 2024.
Is this a scoop?
It is a scoop. You're getting this here first on Max Loves Midland. This has not been publicized at all.
When people come out for the news, they go to Max Loves
Straight
Midland.
from the inbox. But it was, so we did this naming contest for people who are unaware to name our snowplows, and we had over 300 names submitted. So funny, like such a great community engagement program. And one of them ended up being named Scoop Dog. And so my brain, I'm immediately thinking, okay, we're doing this. How can I leverage this and get some actual communications content out of what we're doing? Let's not do this program and then just never talk about it. Just put the names on the trucks and be done. So one of our first major snowfalls after that, Scoop Dog was the feature of the post. And I wrote the entire post in the vein of, 90s hip hop and R&B phenom Snoop Dogg, which I'm sure people are aware of. So that one went really well, went all over the country. It's so much fun. People just engaging with it. And it's an opportunity to give information about what was already going on with our snow event. But there's only so many ways you can say we're plowing your streets. We'll be there as soon as possible. Here's the route, right? For me, it's really about the opportunity to share that information, but in a way that people will engage with and learn from, but also in a way that they're going to remember. I know as a marketer, recall is so hard. It's something we're constantly fighting against. And the more engaging and entertaining you can make that messaging when people are receiving it, the more likely they are to recall it and remember it.
Well, and we talk about roles within a community, and I know it's just a very simple thing, such as a vote on a snowplow, but I think it is important to invite folks into those fun things as well, because then they feel like they're a part of something. They fall more in love with this place. It's just those simple pieces of attachment. And I do think your social media style is an asset for talent development and retention, because when you speak to people like they matter, and you genuinely believe that they do, then that's where you're really building those actual real relationships between people and the city as a place.
Absolutely.
As a brand for you, but really as a place for all of us. And it only helps us all out what you're doing. That benefit is going across the board. So as we have an opportunity to vote on these snowplows coming up here soon, I have to know, are the old names staying intact, or are we going back to the basics? Are we stripping all the names away and renaming?
Yes, we're going to start from scratch. I think it's so fun, and it's such an opportunity for people to really think outside the box and get involved, like you said, in things that we're doing at the city. We got so many great names last time. We had to whittle it down to 20, I think, to vote for the final 6. And that was a chore because there were so many good ones. So I'm hoping some of them get recycled into this round, but I'm really excited to see what people come up with. They're very creative.
So I think that there's always probably a huge nervous feeling anytime such a large entity is opening up stuff like this for public input. And obviously you guys take public input, but when you're opening these type of competitions up, it becomes so wide so fast. And you guys have done other stuff with community involvement as well, and everyone looks forward to the city calendar every single year.
Yeah.
So what does that process look like?
Oh, man. So that is so fun. We engage with the public to get photos that are taken within the last 2 years, and we ask households to submit those, and then we just get hundreds and hundreds of photos. And the great thing is it's such a benefit to us from a communications perspective, because even if we don't utilize those photos for the calendar, there's so many opportunities for people's photos to be used in other ways. If you look at the Midland City Modern Master Plan, most of the photos in there are credited to residents who submitted them to us from that contest or from other means on social media. And that's what I think is so great about the master plan, for example, is it's so community sourced. And so we utilize a lot of those other photos in social media posts, different marketing pieces that we do. People still have the opportunity to see their photo being used. And then we go through a big selection process for the calendar. It's our entire staff, our team on the community affairs department. And we just lock ourselves in a room, print every single photo. Finance, don't listen because it's a lot of printer ink. But there's no other way to do it. And so we just lay them all out and we kind of segment them out. And it's almost like a draft of photos. We just go through and pare it down. And we are lucky here. We have A, so many great things to photograph, and B, so many people who see beauty in so many different things. And it's really interesting to see what people care most about. Because when you think about it, look at your camera roll. The things that are on there are the things that you care the most about. And so getting submissions, and believe it or not, we don't get a ton of Tridge photos. Love the Tridge, but people are really taking a lot of pictures of the amenities that are important to them, parks, some city services, lots of people. And I think that's really telling. People think what I want to see in the city calendar is faces of other Midlanders.
It's just one of those great things when you pop it open and then, you see Chris and Linda Lonis' little one there at, Troon Park. And those are the moments, and you see those smiles, and that's the beauty that we can look on is it's the people of Midland that really make this place what it is.
Yep.
And it's just a beautiful thing to be able to kind of reflect on that as we look through that. And the people of Midland are absolutely incredible. And I think it goes without saying, we've seen a lot in this community in the last 4 to 5 years. We have a shared experience with everybody worldwide when it comes to the pandemic, but then also a very localized experience that took place specifically within our county, but then also with the surrounding counties around us as well. So a very regional experience that a lot of heartbreak, a lot of resiliency, and a lot came out of that. And at that very time, you were moving to Midland as well. And I know that's an interesting conjunction of moving to Midland basically at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Yep.
And then, a few months later, dealing with that catastrophic dam failure resulting in massive flooding. Yep. So if we're looking at those two specific incidences and the way that kind of compounded with your move here, what was that time like for you, if it's okay for me to ask?
Sure. Yeah, of course. So I'll be honest. At that point, that was the end of a relationship that caused me to move that was a very dark time for me. Honestly, it probably couldn't have happened at a worse time, knowing what we would happen over the next couple of months. At the time, my daughter was very young, and being here without any family other than my daughter was very difficult. I was kind of really at a crossroads of what to do, and it's a good and bad thing to be able to throw yourself kind of into your work and put the emotions that you're feeling into the work that you do. I'm sure that there are therapists out there that will tell you don't do that, but that seems to have worked for me. And it was almost like I had this network to feel connected to while I was going through that things, but just by doing my job. And then I think it was kind of a good opportunity when the COVID-19 pandemic happened for me to be able to connect with people in that way and to kind of have that personal and professional outlet to kind of get through some of that stuff, because those things are challenging. I know we all go through personal things in our lives and it seems like it's the end of the world, but the world just keeps on moving, right? We have to find ways to persevere through those challenges. And in the grand scheme of things, when I started going through like the COVID pandemic and then the dam failure event while still going through all these personal challenges, it made me really humble to realize that, yeah, I'm going through some heartbreak right now. Yeah, I'm going through what's going to be some tough times for my family ahead. It's nothing compared to what some people are going through at that time period. There were people that were burying their family members, burying their children because of the COVID pandemic. And then there were people 2 months later in May losing everything they'd ever worked for, their home, their childhood memories, watching our staff load up their entire life and put it into a dumpster or put it into the back of a dump truck. So in the grand scheme of things, I was pretty lucky. I wasn't personally impacted by either of those things. And I say that just for my own life. Was I personally impacted by the stories that people were telling and the communication that I was having with our residents was very impactful. It made a big lasting impression on me.
Well, and you played a very specific role during that time period, and you were obviously going through a lot yourself as well.
Yeah.
And I know you weren't alone in a lot of this work. Can we talk a little bit about the quiet work of some of the other city staff that kind of went on during this time period? And I know we're not going to be able to cover everyone. There were so many people involved in this process of flood recovery and really owning that recovery for our residents. But what did that look like from a city perspective, which is much different than a county perspective or a regional perspective or a FEMA perspective? But what kind of stuff were city workers working on?
Sure. So it was a lot of behind the scenes coordination. I mean, I was in our emergency operations center every day for weeks on end. So many unsung heroes within that organization. We work really closely with Midland County Emergency Management. They're absolute rock stars over there. Midland Fire Department was really stepping up a ton in their response, both during the flood event and then afterwards, kind of in that recovery, picking up the pieces. Where do we go from here mode? The health department was very critical in that as well. The police department. And of course, our public services staff was so critical during that time, just doing the work to get literal physical pieces of cleaning up done. Those guys were working so hard. It was so hot. Why is it so hot in May? Like I thought coming up here from Indiana, I'd get away from humidity, but apparently I was wrong.
Why is it so hot in the fall right
now? I know. I'm wearing a sweatshirt and I'm regretting my choices. But yeah, our public services staff, absolute rock stars. Our water reclamation crew, gotta shout them out, man. They really go through it when we have flooding events, and they really do such an excellent job of ensuring that our infrastructure stays safe and that people still have access to the water and sewer services that they need that are so critical. So it was really a team effort. And one of my favorite things about my role is I get to tell those stories of those people and really champion them and the work that they're doing. Midland is so complimentary and so, for the most part, just very satisfied with the work that we do, which makes it easy to do our jobs. But being able to tell those stories of those people you don't hear about every day and really sing their praises is a huge part of my job that I just love.
Well, it's amazing. It just provides sense of place. It's the same way where I feel so excited to celebrate you today and be able to have this conversation.
Yeah.
That's a reciprocal thing. When people feel included and feel seen and really feel honored for the work that they're doing, it's special. And we do all play this specific position, and we have to cross those barriers to make things happen. And we live in this beautiful community with all these beautiful people and all these beautiful amenities. So fast forward now to 2024, what are some of the spots that you and your daughter like to frequent?
Okay, so we love being outside. So obviously we do a lot of walking around the community, a lot of biking on the rail trail. We love walking downtown to Loons games. I bought a house in Midtown specifically because I wanted to be in a place that was walkable, bikeable. My kiddo could walk to school. We can walk to Loons games. We can walk downtown and enjoy, the Commons Live music series in the pedestrian plaza. It's perfect where we're located at. That was really, growing up out in the country in Indiana, walking to like a restaurant to go have dinner with friends was absolutely unheard of. You were at least a 15-minute drive. So being able to do that here and have my daughter have that experience growing up of being able to do those kinds of things is really exciting. We love the pedestrian plaza. We love the canopy walk and going to Dow Gardens. Every time I have people come from out of town, I take them there. It's just such a beautiful representation of like the care that people give to this community, and such a great philanthropic example as well. We go to some shows at Center for the Arts. My daughter still talks about the Grinch that they had, I think, 3 years ago now. She keeps asking. So Midland Center for the Arts, if you're listening, we'd like the Grinch back. But it's just so many great amenities that we have here, so many great ways to connect. We love our parks and trail system. Spend a lot of time at Grove Park, a lot of time at Chippewa Park, and just love being outside and enjoying everything that we have to enjoy here.
When we're taking those walks downtown on a Friday or Saturday night, the Commons music series has been absolutely bumping all summer long.
Yeah.
And just the showcase that puts on our downtown is just incredible, because you have so many people gathering in one space and connecting, and the value of feeling that inclusion within this experience that we can all share is so special. So what did it take for the city to really be bold in moving forward with that particular series, and why is that such a special amenity for this community?
Sure. So COVID had a lot of negatives, right? But one of the, I would say, maybe positive things that came out of COVID was the opportunity to innovate and create new ways to still allow people to engage and enjoy the community, but in a way that was a little bit safer at the time. So these pedestrian plazas and social districts is kind of what started to come out of that. And we had this idea, okay, well, how do we create an expanded area for outdoor dining, shopping, where people can still come, gather, and just be, but they can be outside in a place that's maybe a little bit safer from the COVID pandemic perspective. So a lot of communities started doing it, and we were not the only ones. And then we started from there to say, okay, how do we get people engaged now that it's safe to be around others? How do we get people involved in that space so that it's activated, so that we have things going on? And that's when the Commons Live music series and the pedestrian plaza really started to gain traction. And we've seen it just grow every single year. I think what's so powerful about that series and that space in particular is it doesn't cost anything to come down and enjoy these concerts, to come down and enjoy the pedestrian plaza, play a game of ping pong, play some cornhole, just sit around and have some conversations. But then there are opportunities for you to do that, whether it's to get a Commons beverage to go, to enjoy having a meal outside, getting a meal to go and sitting on a picnic table, enjoying some music. There are a lot of opportunities for people to connect without feeling like they have to spend a lot of money. Because for a lot of people, that's a barrier to being able to feel connected. So at the end of the day, having a gathering place like that, that's almost like a third place for people to feel comfortable and connect, is so important. And we see it every year. The pedestrian plaza is gaining momentum every year. People really love it.
And that's been an ongoing theme on this show as well. Every time someone comes on, they talk about their favorite places in Midland, and it's very rare that the pedestrian plaza isn't mentioned, or the Commons Live music series, or just a space to gather downtown. Everything even from Allie Huntoon talking about doing Pound in downtown, or Brandon Lewis and Mary Beth Pencola talking about spending time with their children there. This has been an ongoing thing that has came up on this show. And you've donated your own little gift to the programming downtown as well. On Wednesdays during the summertime, which I believe it's wrapped now for the year, but adult recess is something that you actually brought here, and it wasn't some large committee idea brought here. It was Katie Geyer, citizen, brings this, and then you were able to implement that through your work. So what was some of your inspiration behind downtown recess or adult recess, and what is adult recess?
Sure. So adult recess, just for some backstory, it occurs every Wednesday during the summer, usually the first Wednesday following the opening of the pedestrian plaza through the Wednesday before school starts. We kind of see a drop in attendance when school starts. People's schedules kind of change. From 11:30 to 1 on Wednesdays, it's intended to be a recess. I know we get a lot of people saying, well, why don't you do it on a weeknight or on a weekend? Well, you don't have recess after school, right? So we do it in a time where people are midway through their workday, maybe just getting ready to go to work if they work second shift, and just an opportunity for them to come downtown and connect. And there's so much research on the value of play in terms of creating a sense of belonging and a sense of connection with others. So we had all of these games, supplies, things that we had used in previous downtown events that for most of the year just sat in the City Hall basement and weren't touched, weren't used, unless it was for that specific event. And I was like, well, we could do something with these and make them more utilized and make it worth that expense that we went through to purchase them. So we have giant Jenga, giant Connect Four, we have hula hoops, bubbles, just a myriad of things, sidewalk chalk, all the things when you think about like being a kid and what you really loved. We have giant Twister this year. That was a new addition that people loved. We take these games downtown and just set them up in the pedestrian plaza and invite people to just come play. And it's such an opportunity for people to have fun, have a little midday break. We get entire offices or entire departments of organizations coming down just on their lunch break to come and connect for an hour, have a little brain break. People bring their kids. We get a lot of stay-at-home parents in the summer bringing their kiddos down. We've had the Rock Center for Youth Development was down in downtown one week, and they brought all their kids down to play. It was just such a great chance to see like the epitome of what a community is. People just meeting each other, interacting and being silly and having fun. And we started, I believe, in 2018, and we missed a year for COVID, but it's just been going strong. And this year was our most well-attended year we've had.
It's incredible. So adult recess, a lot of fun, but there's still some amenities that are down there even without the structured adult recess piece. So what type of those things are remaining until the end of the pedestrian plaza? Sure.
So the pedestrian plaza runs generally first week of June to first week of October. So it'll close actually, I think September 30th we'll start tearing down this year. But there's two ping pong tables. There are 4 sets of cornhole boards down there. That's just on the DDA side. We have some businesses down there that have some additional amenities. Lots of seating, lots of really cool kind of like photo op type of deals. We've got some trees down there, some small trees we've brought in. Just some really cool places to just, again, be. And what I think has been so powerful for that area is to see some of the businesses engage. I know Serendipity Road and Joyful Tantrum put out these little houses for kids and labeled them with some of the other downtown business names. That's something my kiddo personally loves to play with. There's little slides. There's lots of activity down there. And then there's all the expanded shopping and dining areas that a lot of our businesses are really taking advantage of. So there's some great opportunities to go down there. Speaking of Allie, I have done several Pound fitness classes down there in the middle of Main Street. Never did I think that I would be doing like squats in the center of a major intersection with people literally just watching me. But anyway, I apologize for that. So there's lots of cool things that we're doing and lots of things that the community is doing independent of us, to make that an engaging place for everyone. And that's been the coolest part of it.
And as city government continues to look at the idea of the pedestrian plaza, is there a way anybody can give feedback on whether or not they enjoyed that spot?
Yeah, so funny you mentioned that. So right now we have approval through 2025 for City Council. So the pedestrian plaza will definitely be back for the 2025 season, but after that, it's kind of up in the air about what we do. Do we keep it going? Do we change some things? Do we stop doing it at all? So there is a survey currently live through October on our eCity Hall public engagement platform, which you can find at cityofmidlandmi.gov/eCityHall. Just search eCity Hall, City of Midland, you'll find it there. And they have the opportunity to weigh in both on the experiences they've had in the plaza and their opinions for the future, if it should continue and if it should or shouldn't, why are the reasons it would be fruitful to do that or not, and some suggestions as well. We really take those suggestions into account. And I've seen over the last 4 years a lot of suggestions with making more accessible parking or more accessibility, to changing some of the programming around, adding some, removing some amenities. So we really do take those suggestions into account. It's super helpful. And that way we're delivering the best service we can for the community.
Awesome. So we're looking forward to experiencing that pedestrian plaza at least for one more year. And I guess we'll see after that where we go. But I have no doubt, especially after how well this was implemented, that the city's going to go in a direction that takes care of its people and puts a focus on livability. And we talk a little bit about livability. And it was really interesting that you mentioned that this idea of the studies behind togetherness and that social piece within a community. And that's one of my core beliefs of building a community, is that space that we share together and how we share that space and being very intentional about it. So what role does a city government piece have in some livability? Because you just talked about adult recess, which is something you basically did without any sort of additional funding and just was really innovative with the space you already had and items you already had. Right. So what type of role does a city government play in livability? Sure.
So I think we play a huge role, but we're not the only organization. We're not the only catalyst, right? And I think that's what's really important to remember. We can build a lot of the framework that I think makes a space livable, walkable, easier to connect, whether that's creating, infrastructure like non-motorized transportation that allows people to get around the community without a vehicle or safely on a bike or on foot, or other opportunities. Public transit is another opportunity for people to be able to move around the community. That is something that we provide through Dial-A-Ride. A lot of the amenities that you see, parks, trails, those are things that add to the livability scale as well. And then just creating an environment where businesses can thrive, where there's opportunities for growth, whether that's through the zoning and planning process, whether that's through some facade improvements like we see in the downtown and center city authority areas, creating things like the South Saginaw streetscape that we just went through a couple of years ago and the downtown streetscape renovation prior to that, creating environments where that will organically happen is really where we kind of come in. But we can't do it all on our own. And we've been fortunate in Midland to have a lot of residents really care about what the future of this community looks like. And we have a lot of very creative and entrepreneurial people who say, I want to stand up and lead the charge on something, or I want to make this amenity, activity, program, business available. So we kind of provide that framework, and then the beauty of it is that the community kind of fills in the rest.
Well, I think that we've got it pretty well covered for what we have going on at the community. So I think we need to bring it back a little bit more for you and I.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about marketing, and the cool thing about being a marketer is that you are also a marketer's dream quite often, because, I'm pretty easily into somebody's content if it's engaging enough or checking it out. Okay. So today we wanted to do a little bit of draft of some of our favorite social media accounts.
Yes.
This can be your favorite for any sort of reason, whether that's dynamic content, humor, however you want to put the box around it. But I'm going to go ahead and let you get the first crack at it.
Okay, so my number 5 is a dark horse that I'm sure no one here has heard of. But it is an attorney, James McMinn, out of North Carolina. And this started, a friend introduced me to this a couple of years ago. He is an attorney that just started with his own personal Facebook page, kind of advertising his legal services. but he does it in the most hilarious way. There's lots of pop culture references. There's lots of memes and a lot of engagement within the comments with people as well, to the point where, I'm living in Michigan. Hopefully I never need an attorney in North Carolina. But if I do, I'm definitely calling this guy, right? Such a good example of someone taking their personal brand and professionally elevating it to the next level. Highly recommend you check it out. Super funny post. And then the comments just go off and people start making their own jokes and sharing their own content that they've created. It's such a great example of personal and professional branding kind of really coming together in one.
Now, I didn't know if I'd necessarily take this next account, but I think I have to, because there was a specific story I was wanting you to tell and you didn't. So I'm going to pick up the city of Midland here as one of my favorite social media accounts. Genuinely, though, I think it's just pretty profound. Anytime you talk about the city of Midland social media accounts, even if they do not know you, they immediately light up and they tend to know exactly what you're talking about. And I think you're very, very good and very tactful at what you do. And I like that you're willing to take risks. And I really look up to you in this space.
Thank you.
One thing that I find really funny is sometimes you do your job so well that it's like too good and it extends beyond our immediate viewing area here.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking of a very specific Instagram reel that you made maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago about road work on the corner of Wackerly and Eastman Road.
Yes.
And it was just like these funny like brain rot style posts that you'll find on TikTok sometimes with like flashing memes. And it was like a little picture of the construction flew in. It was like these weird flashing things. And if people saw it, they'd probably look like any other similar type of template from that time period. But you were talking about road construction, and that was engaging for our residents here. But I saw that get like thousands upon thousands of views and maybe even comments from people in Europe, it felt like.
Yeah, so it's our best performing reel that we've ever had, any social post, which is interesting because it wasn't even technically our work. It was an MDOT project, but because we're local government and we want people to be aware that there was going to be some significant closures there, I think the reel just said, just a heads up, Wackerly and Eastman is going to be closed one lane, and just something so silly with some swirling like word art. And it was viewed over 1.2 million times and had thousands of comments and reactions, to the point where at the time I had to shut the comments off temporarily, which I don't like to do, but my phone was dying and I couldn't keep it charged because it was going off so much from all of the Instagram notifications. And we got them from all over the world. I'm in Sydney, Australia, but I'll make sure to avoid this intersection. Or, I'm on my way to Los Angeles right now. Hope I don't have to run into this. It's silly things like that. But we got the opportunity to engage with some people that had never even heard of Midland. And one of my favorite follow-ups to that is that we had an Instagram follower that said in their comments, when you announce that this is open, I'm going to come visit this intersection. And I was like, okay, yeah, right. So then I commented that it was reopened, or we had another follow-up reel showing that it was opened again. I think, again, we used like a Jay-Z song and did something kind of funny with it. A couple hours later, this person tagged us in a Instagram post. She had driven up from, I think, the Detroit area, and there were numerous photos of her standing on the corner of this intersection. She really did come and visit it, and the content of the post was, I saw because of the city of Midland, and I was like, oh man, well, I hope you at least have a dinner or something before you head back. But it was so cool to see that kind of interaction. And you don't get that without taking a little bit of risk and being a little bit more human.
And who says Midland isn't a tourist destination?
That's
with places like the Eastman and Wackerly interchange?
That's right. Have you seen that turn lane? It's beautiful.
Found magic at the Shell gas station. All right. So what are you feeling for your next pick?
Okay. My next pick is a government agency, and I love it. It is the Utah Department of Transportation, and that sounds super boring, but hear me out. So their Instagram in particular is hilarious. They created this moniker called Bridge Fest because apparently in Utah they were doing a lot of bridge work out there and replacing a lot of bridges, which we know here, like what's happening on US 10 right now at Mackinac Bridge, is so annoying, right? It creates huge traffic headaches. And they really tried to take a positive spin on it and created this like fake concert series called Bridge Fest and had like engineers doing cartwheels and like funny, engaging posts, stuff like that. And then they released, based on the comments that said like, if this were a concert t-shirt, I'd buy it. Their in-house designer created a whole Bridge Fest design with like all the bridges listed that they were going to be working on as like a concert t-shirt. And then they sold it. And people went and bought them and like absolutely loved it. So if you get a chance to check out Utah DOT, hilarious. I keep trying to get our city engineer to do some cartwheels for an Insta reel, but still working on that.
Do you own a Bridge Fest shirt now?
I don't own a bridge. Maybe I should get one. I kind of hope we do like Bridge Fest or maybe Road Fest next year.
Road Fest?
Yeah.
Road Diet Fest? No, I won't say it. I won't say it. I won't say it. I won't say it. All right. So now for our for my next choice. This is a place that I don't normally eat at. Just like I have beef with like whatever's going on with their bread or whatever. But this their TikTok account has directly inspired me to start eating there again. This is the Jimmy John's TikTok account.
Oh.
They've adopted some very interesting marketing ideas of just like embracing kind of this idea of like you go to Jimmy John's when you have the munchies. And it's a really, really funny spin on some modern topics that are going on in our country. But it's just, they're just like, yeah, come on through and have a good time. They've done some special packs. They've done some funny stuff. So I think Jimmy John's TikTok, specifically their TikToks, really redeemed a little bit of their branding for me. So,
interesting. Yeah.
Check it out.
Okay, so my next one, kind of similar, where it's just kind of a wacky off-the-wall thing for a brand. Duolingo, if you follow them at all.
Duolingo's great.
Yeah, if you have their app, so they're already kind of cheeky and fun and some of the notifications and some of the things that they do with graphics on there. But then you go to their social media, and it is such an extension of that. Their graphics work is phenomenal, and they do a lot of partnerships with different brands as well, which is really cool. So they've done some interaction with Scrub Daddy as well, which is going to probably just have to be honorable mention on my list. Although Scrub Daddy is hysterical when you think about like it's a sponge.
We're a scrub mommy household.
Or scrub. So. There is also Scrub Mommy. Mm-hmm. So the way that they just engage with each other and star in each other's TikToks and just do silly things. Duolingo has it like down pat. They do some of the common like TikTok and Insta Reel trends, and they use that owl, which is becomes so synonymous with their brand in just the most hilarious ways. Like you think about people being very protective of your logo and your brand, and then you look at what Duolingo was doing with that owl, like it would make most marketers absolutely cringe, right? But they're doing it in such an organic way that resonates so well with their target market. I think it's brilliant.
I'm not sure I'm sure it was an organized combination, but just a few days ago, like recently, Charlie XCX performed in Detroit.
Yeah.
And Charlie XCX's new album, Brat, is really featuring the color neon green. So they paid like 20 or 30 people dressed up in the Duolingo costumes to be in the pit.
Yes.
So I'll share those videos with you. I don't know if you've seen any of those.
Oh, no, I haven't.
So it's a bunch of Duolingo owls in the pit at the Charlie show, and you can see it. Like, they're close to the stage. And it's like, you zoom out, and it's just a bunch of Duolingos.
I love that.
And I think she even mentioned Duolingo a few times during the show. So that's just another example of being a really interesting usage of that brand. So kind of funny that you mentioned them, because I've been seeing so much Duolingo stuff recently. I guess I'm in the Brat algorithms.
You are. It's your Brat summer.
Yeah, 33-year-old man is definitely the target audience for Brat. So I guess that's a look into my life. Regardless, on to the next thing. This one's fun, and I'm gonna grab it before you do. Upper Peninsula Twitter account.
Ooh, good one. That's a good one.
Or X account, I guess you could say.
Yep.
They just say the most ridiculous stuff about like their lakes, and it's not an official government ran Twitter account, but it's somebody with a lot of time who does good justice to our state and honestly for tourism, because they get so much interaction on it, and it's really funny to see those organic type of accounts pop up for parody out of nowhere. So
yes, and Lake Superior X account, by the way, to coincide with that, hilarious. Like they fight with oceans and stuff. It's so funny.
It's super good.
So my next one is going to be kind of similar vein, but it's an official government account. It's U.S. Fish and Wildlife. Fantastic photography, but then they also turn it and say like expectation, beautiful photo from like their photographer, reality, and it's like something from somebody's like, Galaxy 12 or whatever, the worst Galaxy phone, which I probably still have. It's really fun. They do take on some really engaging topics in unique ways. They pull in a lot of the like common trends that are going on, but it's also such a great educational channel. And you really learn something when you watch it, and you get to the end of a reel or you get to the end of a post and you're like, I just learned a bunch of stuff that I didn't even know. And I don't know how I knew that, but I was so interested in it. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not really into salamanders, but I know so much about like salamanders and Apache trout now because of that account. So it's really cool.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it's so cool.
Now, we could get fun here. You know, I had some weird things on the list. I was like, can I say like pre-2016 Kanye West Twitter? And it's like, I don't want to delve into that. You know, and then I was also like, do I shout out Ask Midland? But if I shout out Ask Midland, then I might upset Midland Complains. If I shout out Kanye, you upset the Swifties. And there's like two things you don't try and upset. It's Midland Complains and the Swifties. So,
that's fair.
Shout out to both Midland Complains and the Swifties. I want that on record. No, the next brand I'm looking at is a cereal brand called Surreal. So Surreal, what they do is they have some like really funny billboard marketing.
Okay.
And it's just very blunt delivery of their messaging. So it's like surreal, and it'll just be like cereal. Like,
I love that.
Like messaging, like, how do you let people know that we have a cereal brand? We sell cereal, and then like their brand, or like, this is the real Snap Crackle Pop. And they're just, they always are taking shots at their opponents in really fun and interesting ways. And I think I'm gonna have to order a box of cereal. So
okay, well, so speaking of shots at other people and other entities, my number one forever will be Wendy's Twitter, now X. Hilarious content, engaging, and honestly, with a brand as big as Wendy's, you don't need to be on X or any social media really selling Wendy's, right? Like, people know what Wendy's is about. And so they take the opportunity on there to just engage with people. And I don't know if anyone's been watching any of their roasts, but my goodness, like, as a social media manager, I am so jealous that they like just allow people to get roasted on there. It's so funny because people love it. They go on there and ask, like, make fun of me, Wendy's, please. And so I absolutely love it. They engage with some of the other brands and kind of go at some of the brands that that they compete against, or just brands on X as well. And it's all fun. Like, the brands are engaging back. And that's really what you can expect from social media, is you want that engagement. And in terms of straight engagement, like fearless guerrilla marketing, if you will, Wendy's Twitter all the way.
Wendy's Twitter is absolutely amazing. One of my favorites as well. And I think they've really inspired a whole collection of different accounts to be different in their marketing, maybe even you and I and what we do in our career field. But we've seen Burger King be really funny. We've seen Taco Bell do some fun content. Buffalo Wild Wings has been hilarious lately. And I think that all comes directly from what Wendy's set as a tone.
Yeah.
Different TikTok accounts that have popped up. I think Wendy's did like a whole beef album where they did like these diss songs on other places. And yeah, I think that's a really, really good pick for number one.
Yeah.
Now, as a cop-out, what I would like to do for number one is let's just name some other Midland accounts here that have a lot of fun. Obviously, Midland Gazette's always a good time.
Yes,
and
fantastic.
I mean, it's such a mystery. No one who knows who does it. So Midland Gazette's always really, really funny. I have a fun time with the River Days account. And I do want to shout out Ben Tierney for helping kind of lay that groundwork for that particular account. And I've had a lot of fun being able to build that out a little bit more. You know, other stuff around town, like who else do you see that's out here really putting a lot of content out, or just content out that you're engaging with?
No, so I will give a shout out actually selfishly to our own staff. So when I got to the city in 2016, my brand of social media marketing was something totally different than any government entity, locally at least, was doing at the time, let alone anything we'd ever done. And they had the opportunity to say, no, this is the way we've always done things. And to some extent, Midland still does that a little bit. This is the way we've always done it. We don't want to change. But instead, it was, you know what? Let's see how it goes. Do whatever you want. And they've really given me kind of creative license to do that. And over time, as we've noticed, our residents like it. We can be engaging and informative, but also be funny and human. A lot of our accounts have started doing that. I want to shout out Midland Fire Department. They've been doing a great job lately with that kind of thing. Their little like semi-funny beef with Midland Police Department. They go back and forth in the comments a little bit. Super funny. And we all engage with each other as well. We meet together as a group of social media account managers at the city and kind of bounce ideas around each other. We're all friends. And so it's really great to see them kind of like picking up what I'm doing and carrying that torch. And it's so far has worked out so well for us.
There's so many good podcasts being made here at JNC Media that we talked about a little bit earlier as well. So I want to give a shout out to JNC Media specifically, where this show is shot and edited at. Talk Midland with Logan. I think what Logan's been able to do by talking to small businesses is absolutely incredible. So I encourage everyone, if you enjoy this style of content, go check that out. And there's so many other spaces that have been doing great stuff. MCTV been providing community coverage for years.
Absolutely.
Everything from government meetings, which aren't always the first thing on someone's docket, but they're important to have documented, and they look good and they're well executed, and sporting events that they put out there. So I want to give a shout out to MCTV. Another one of my favorite accounts, shout out to my friend at Proper Taco, Ashley.
Oh, Ashley. Love Ashley's
Ashley's
Proper
just
Taco.
Ashley on the Proper Taco page.
Love
It's
it.
just in living time. So I love that as well. So definitely, where are all the places that they can follow the city of Midland at? I know that you could go into sub-brands all day, but specifically the main city accounts.
Sure. So any city account that I manage is at City of Midland MI if you want to engage with me and have some fun. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok. And so engage with us there. We also have, probably over 30 social media channels across our different departments at this point. But you can find essentially all of our accounts through the main city account, which is City of Midland MI.
Now, I'm not asking you to make any sort of decision on this or explain anything on it. But I thought the other day as I was going through X, and we abandoned X at the Community Foundation just due to resources and where we want to put them at, and where we can communicate at, and then also where our audience is. And we just found very little to no audience in that space. So if the city was to ever reduce like a social media account, would that be different for you? Like, would you have to go through some sort of proceeding? Because I know that everything has to be backed up on a government scale. So
yeah, and to be honest, we've pulled several of our departments off of X as well, just because there wasn't a whole lot of engagement there. We'll probably always keep a main city account there. So one of the things that I'm really proud of that I've done at the city is create not only this kind of social media branding type of initiative, but you have to have some backbone on that, right? Especially in a government channel where we're dealing with First Amendment rights. And so I created a social media management plan, which I'm finding from talking with other local governments, like nobody does. And so I've really been able to kind of teach some other local governments how to effectively manage their social media presence. Because you're right, it is so critical. Things have to be documented. We have to have a kind of a backup source if we were to get into some type of legal situation, or we needed to reference something in the future. And part of that social media management plan, it spells out things like, how do we take down an account and make it inactive? What do we need to do? What are the steps? How do we create an account? Because the last thing we want is to see this new city account for some amenity or something pop up. Let's take the Tridge, for example. Don't be taking this as like an invitation, by the way, people. Don't be making Tridge accounts. But, or do. I won't say anything. But...
yeah, you will.
Yeah. So, when we see a new account come up and it's like claiming to be the City of Midland, there's lots of parody sites out there now for different local governments. I get sent like Kenosha, Wisconsin's like fake snow plowing post all the time. I'm sure people have seen that about local moms. And I'm like, I'm not putting that on the City of Midland. Maybe someday. Don't listen, Brad. No, I won't. But
give me a raise.
So we want to make sure that things are authentic when they're coming out from us, because the last thing we want is to compound this fake news theory, government conspiracy space like that. And we don't want to shut down our own accounts. So there is also a process for, if a department wants to start a new channel, here's, you contact me, and then we have kind of some steps that we go through, some fact finding, because that way we make sure when we see a new account come out, oh, that belongs to us. We know we can tag it. We know it's authentic. It just kind of keeps, from a branding perspective, while we have a lot of fun, it's important we're very authentic and very professional in the way that we do things. And so that social media management plan really makes sure that we're following it in a very documented and professional fashion.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for teaching us so much about what the city's up to today.
Yeah.
And I think we got so much good information out of this, and I think our residents are really going to be happy to listen to this conversation. But as you look forward to the future in Midland, and as you know, this is a question we ask absolutely everyone.
Yes.
What are you looking for from this community?
Oh, man. So in terms of where we go in the future, I just would love to see Midland continue the momentum that we've got with, like the things that are happening downtown, and some of our, focus on non-motorized infrastructure. Some of the things that we're coming up with, master planning for Emerson Park, for City Forest, things like that. I want people to engage. I want people to be parts of those master planning processes. Come to local meetings, share your opinion, share our posts, do that engagement piece, because we are all part of this community. We all matter. And I want us all to feel welcome, like we belong here, like we have a voice here. That's so critical for me in my job, and really something that I've taken on as kind of a duty to make sure that our residents are heard by our staff and by other members of the community as well. So I would love people to just continue engaging, continue to seeing us keeping up with that momentum in terms of strategic growth, livability, and continue to focus on making us a community of choice. I think we do a great job of that. I think we have a great network of other organizations that help us with that. And I challenge residents to continue being a part of that change as well.
Well, thank you so much. And before you go, this is the unofficial basketball podcast in Midland as well. So we're going to ask one quick question. You're wearing your Butler Bulldogs hoodie today. For those that are listening, I wore my Michigan basketball 1993 Final Four.
Oh, did you go to Michigan?
For like a week, I went to U of M Flint. So I'm as a proud U of M Flint dropout.
Love it.
I own the M. I own the M. So both of our basketball clubs are in a little bit of a rebuilding status when it comes to college. So I'm not going to ask for any predictions because it could get sour for both of us.
Right.
But I guess my question is, what is your favorite memory of Butler basketball?
Oh, man. I mean, it's a heartbreaker, but also a great memory. So I was living in Indy at the time when Butler played in its first national championship that it had ever been to. That was in 2010 against Duke. And being able to go downtown and see everything just Butlered out, right? Which Butler is campus is not downtown, but it's only like 3-4 miles from where they played at Lucas Oil Stadium. And to see them practice in Lucas Oil, to see all the fanfare and people coming into town that were so supportive of Butler, seeing a huge city like Indianapolis just really rally around this tiny school of, at the time, I think 4,500 people maybe, and really champion a school that not a lot of people had heard of, and see the national attention associated with that was so cool. And then, obviously the worst memory is that same time period, Gordon Hayward misses that half-court shot that would have buried Duke, and they would have won the national championship. So bittersweet, but definitely one of my coolest memories.
Gordon ended up being all right. He had a big glow up, made some money.
He did. Good for him. He just retired this year.
Happy retirement to Gordon Hayward as well. Well, Katie, thank you so much for joining us today on the Max Loves Midland show. Really appreciate having you here. We are personal friends, and I think this could have easily went off the rails, and we could have went a million different spaces with this, and this podcast could have looked like a million different things. But I think we talked about some really impactful stuff, and I just want to take an opportunity to thank you for being such a large part of my career as well in my building steps. Originally working at the city of Midland, doing social media videography, essentially working with you. Really kind of laid the path of what my career could look like down the road. So as one of my personal friends and mentors, I really appreciate you, and thank you so much for being in Midland. Not only am I luckier for it, but as we heard from the stories today, our residents are definitely luckier for it as well. So thank you so much for being along for this ride of life and the ride for the show today. And we appreciate the rest of you guys for being along for the ride as well. Thank you for joining us for one more episode of the Max Loves Midland show. Make sure you're going to maxlovesmidland.com. Check out all the events. We've had over 2,500 events submitted to the community calendar. That's just great. That's people sharing space together, and we hope you engage in that and be a part of the solutions around here as well. We apologize to Coach Brad Stevens. We did not have enough time to take your call, but maybe next time on the Max Loves Midland show. And as we always say, if life gives you a bridge and it doesn't do a job, just build a Tridge. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Subscribe wherever you consume media. Max Loves Midland is your entertainment, resources, and collective improvement hub for Midland County. Plan your next adventure in Midland at maxlovesmidland.com.